but once you hit around 80 kilometers per hour, there's a noticeable drop-off in power. The glove box is easily the star of the show. Seriously, it's one of the biggest I've ever seen. Whether these token gestures actually help with NVH, well, we'll find out in the test drive later. It's like going into battle wearing a helmet but forgetting your pants. But, and it's a big but, the rear wiper is gone. Surprise, surprise, this car doesn't have roof rails, not even mounting points for them. In other words, the regen isn't linear, and that messes with the overall driving feel. I spent quite a while trying to figure out how to open that sunshade. Now let me talk about my biggest complaint with this car. This is such a basic yet important feature, and somehow it just fell victim to cost cutting. Even brands like BMW sometimes rely on patchwork solutions like adding resonators to the suspension just to cancel out certain frequencies. Hey everyone! So funny story, I totally misunderstood what Delta Johnny wanted to see and ended up filming a full review of the Leapmotor C10. Turns out that wasn't the car he had in mind. My bad. But here I am again, back at the Leapmotor retail store, and this time I got it right. Our star today is this guy, the B10, Leapmotor's new compact all-electric SUV that launched earlier this year. In the last video, we saw how Leapmotor managed to deliver a surprisingly decent user experience with the C10, even on a tight budget. Things like that fake but fantastic silicone leather and the anti-rust coating in the rear cabin were standout details. But what happens when we go even cheaper? The B10 comes in at a full tier below the C10 in terms of price. So, can Leapmotor still pull off a good product experience on an even lower budget? Let's jump in and find out. Size-wise, the B10 is noticeably smaller than the C10. It measures 4,515 millimeters in length, 1,885 millimeters in width, and 1,655 millimeters in height. The wheelbase comes in at 2,735 millimeters, and the minimum ground clearance is 170 millimeters. From the outside, the overall design of the B10 looks pretty similar to its bigger brother, the C10. It's a pretty conservative design overall, nothing flashy. Up front, the headlights and daytime running lights follow a split layout. You might think that light bar stretching across the front is functional, but nope, it doesn't actually light up. It's just for show. A bit of a cost-cutting move there, not broken, just not included. The main headlights sit below the DRLs and are actually pretty decent. They're still projector-style units with high and low beam in one housing, no downgrade there. At the bottom, you've got an active air intake grille, which hasn't been cut. But on both sides of the bumper, those aerodynamic vents you saw on the C10, yeah, those are gone here. Just closed-off panels now, another sign of budget trimming. Right above the license plate is the front camera for the 360-degree view system. This particular B10 is a mid-trim model, so there's no LiDAR, and most of the hardware for advanced driver assistance has been stripped out. See that black panel on the front fender? On higher trims, that's where a side camera would go, but here it's just a decorative piece, another reminder that this is a budget-friendly trim. The hood release latch is a bit hidden, so if you're not familiar with it, you might need a moment to figure it out. Popping open the front hood, there's no surprise here. You're not greeted by a frunk, but rather a clutter of components and wiring. The hydraulic struts for the hood, also gone. Instead, you'll have to prop it up the old school way with a metal rod. Under the hood, there's no sound insulation or damping material at all. Everything is just bare metal. Of course, the good news is that the ever-reliable aftermarket has solutions for all of this, as long as you are willing to pay for them. Of course, the charge port cover is manual, no surprises there, but just when I thought Leapmotor had hit rock bottom on cost cutting, they pulled out a shovel and dug even deeper. On the C10, the manual cover at least had a spring mechanism and popped open on its own. Here, you've got to pull it open by hand. Yep, even the pop-up spring was deleted. What can I say? Now let's talk tires. Believe it or not, the B10 rocks a staggered setup, wider tires in the rear. Up front, you've got 225 50 R18s, and in the back, 235 50 R18s. Sounds sporty, right? The tires are from Chaoyang, a domestic Chinese brand. As for the suspension, up front, you've got McPherson struts, and in the rear, surprise, a multi-link independent setup. Credit where it's due, Leapmotor didn't pull a typical Japanese move and slap a cheap torsion beam back there. Respect. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Material-wise, it's all good old-fashioned steel. And unlike the C10, which at least tried to fake some class by painting its control arms to look like aluminum, the B10 doesn't even bother. Just plain black-coated steel, no makeup, no disguise. The rust proofing and sound deadening coatings we saw on the C10, yeah, forget about those. On the B10, they've been replaced with a few humble sheets of butyl damping pads casually slapped on like a last-minute DIY fix. Whether these token gestures actually help with NVH, well, we'll find out in the test drive later. But honestly, I don't think it's going to do much. And here's another gem. If you peek under the car, you'll notice there's no underbody shield at the rear. Yep, the rear motor, high voltage cables, and other critical components are just out there, fully exposed to water, rocks, and whatever else the road decides to throw at them. It's like going into battle wearing a helmet but forgetting your pants. So yeah, if you plan to buy this car, do yourself a favor, get an aftermarket rear shield installed. Your drivetrain will thank you. Speaking of materials, I went ahead and pulled out my trusty little magnet to check the body panels. Now, before you ask, no, I wasn't hoping for aluminum. Come on, this is Leapmotor we're talking about. There's no way they're throwing aluminum into a car this cheap. What I really wanted to check was whether any of the panels were made from plastic or resin. Turns out all 4 doors and both the hood and trunk are made of steel. Even the upper part of the tailgate is metal, which actually surprised me a bit, since a lot of brands, including Zeekr in some models we've reviewed before, tend to use plastic in that area. Now let's take a look at the rear. The full width taillight, still here, nice. The layout is nearly identical to the C10, license plate mounted on the bumper, 360-degree camera tucked right above it. But, and it's a big but, the rear wiper is gone. Yep, deleted. If it were up to me, I'd gladly trade that fancy light strip just to get the rear wiper back. Priorities, right? Just like the C10, the tailgate release isn't in the center, it's off to the right. Let me show you how to open it from the side of the car. If your parking spot is tight, this design actually works surprisingly well. And hey, my mom won't have to worry about me getting smacked in the face by a rogue tailgate anymore. Win-win. The trunk is actually nicely shaped and fairly practical. You've got a depth of 85 centimeters, a width of 94 centimeters, and a height of 70 centimeters. Overall, it's a pretty decent space for a compact SUV, but when it comes to functionality, well, let's just say it's not exactly generous. Just like the C10, there's a single small light on the right for illumination, and you do get hooks on both sides, which is something, I guess. But forget about a 220-volt power outlet, a 12-volt socket, or even a one-touch seatback release. None of that made it onto the B10. Lift up the floor panel and surprise, there's actually another neatly shaped storage space underneath. It's almost as wide as the main trunk, which is great. But here's the catch. The panel doesn't latch or stay up on its own, so you'll need one hand to hold it open while you dig around with the other. Not ideal. Honestly, if I owned this car, I'd probably just take the panel out altogether and enjoy the extra trunk space. Problem solved. With the rear seats folded down, the trunk depth extends to 1.5 meters, which means you can load longer items. Great for trips to IKEA or hauling gear. Sleeping back here though, not really an option. A kid might be able to curl up, but if you're an adult, you'd better bring a tent. And no, not even a rooftop tent, because surprise, surprise, this car doesn't have roof rails, not even mounting points for them. Leapmotor's engineering team really went all in on cost cutting this time. The door handles have been switched to mechanical pop-out ones. They look pretty slick, but opening the door is just a bit less intuitive. If your friends haven't used this type before, you might have to give them a quick tutorial on how to get in. Now let's take a look at the interior. This car also features a deep purple theme throughout, and like the C10, it comes with single pane windows, both front and rear. The door panels use a two-tone design, white leather on the upper part, though the soft padding underneath has been removed. Around the armrest area, you'll find purple leather with the padding thankfully still intact, giving you a nice soft touch where your arms usually rest. The lower section switches to purple plastic. While the materials don't quite match the quality of the C10, I actually think the design here feels more stylish and refined. That said, I'm a bit concerned about the light-colored leather on the upper edge. It might cause reflections that affect your view through the rear-view mirror. And if you've added a dark window tint, that glare could become even more noticeable. When it comes to interior design, the B10 definitely doesn't use materials as premium as the C10, but it actually feels more creative. Instead of just slapping on some faux leather and calling it a day, they added some thoughtful touches. The biggest change? It's right here on the passenger side of the dashboard. The designers carved out 6 oval cutouts, 3 on top and 3 below, so you can add decorative or functional accessories, like these 2 cute little figurines you're seeing now, or the fold-out tray table they promote on the official website. Looks useful, right? Well, owners say it's actually pretty wobbly. nobody dares put food or a laptop on it for fear of knocking everything over. Of course, if you're not into these quirky cutouts, no worries, you can do what they've done on this display model and just plug them up with this purple plastic strip. The center console has also been completely redesigned. Right at the front, near the dashboard, there's now an open style layout that's super practical. It gives you enough room to stash larger items. Heck, even your daily backpack or a work bag can easily fit in there. Leapmotor is still more generous than traditional gas-powered cars. Even the front passenger seat gets electric adjustment. You can move it forward and backward and tilt the seat back, but unfortunately there's no height adjustment. Now let's hop over to the driver's side. Just like the C10, the driver's seat is electrically adjustable. You can slide it forward and back, adjust the height, tilt the seat back, and also no adjustment for the seat cushion tilt. Once you're seated, you'll notice the steering wheel design and button layout are almost identical to the C10. It's wrapped in leather and features scroll wheels on both sides. On the left, the top button controls the central locking and the bottom one is a customizable shortcut. On the right, the top button activates voice control and the bottom one cycles through the driver display info. But I've got to say, putting the central locking button on the steering wheel just doesn't make sense. These controls should be reserved for functions you might actually use while driving, and let's be honest, nobody's locking or unlocking the doors while cruising down the road. Plus, the infotainment system already has central locking controls, so that button could have been put to much better use. Another cool design detail, the driver display is physically connected to the steering column. See this? When you adjust the steering wheel, the display moves along with it. I really like this feature. It means no matter how you position the wheel, the driver display will never be blocked from view. But that driver display has got a huge black bezel around it, and honestly, it's kind of an eyesore. In 2025, this just feels a bit outdated. The air vents are manually adjustable, nothing fancy. As for interior materials, it's a similar story to the C10, fabric up by the windshield and hard plastics everywhere else. I'll admit, I initially thought this purple area was leather, but nope, it's just painted plastic. Oh well, at this price point, I guess that's fair. At least the shapes and colors feel way more modern than the rough black plastics you'd find in most traditional gas cars. The central touchscreen measures 14.6 inches and boasts a crisp 2.5K resolution. The mid and lower trims come equipped with the Qualcomm 8155 chip, while the top spec model gets the more powerful 8295. This particular car is the mid-trim version, and I have to say the screen operates buttery smooth. Zooming in and out on the map, no lag at all. Honestly, I think the 8155 gets the job done just fine. The 360-degree camera is plenty clear and does a great job helping you keep an eye on your surroundings. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a setting to switch the system language to English, so I wasn't able to walk you through all the features. Sorry about that. Right below the infotainment screen are two air vents for the AC, and underneath that you'll find two foldable plastic cup holders. It's clear the designers were trying to give users a bit more flexibility in a relatively compact space. The B10 even comes with two wireless chargers, a luxury that C10 owners don't get. Sure, they're just basic 15 watt without active cooling, but they still managed to trigger fast wireless charging on my Samsung S22. Plus, the nearby air vents can be angled to blow cool air directly onto your phone, which helps keep it from overheating during charging. Right below the wireless charging pads, tucked away at the back of the storage space, you'll find a 12-volt outlet, a USB-C port, and a good old-fashioned USB-A port. Let's just hope you haven't ditched all your old charging cables just yet. You can even hook up a third-party CarPlay dongle using that USB-A port. On the center console, due to the shorter body length, there's no space for the two rear cup holders like you get in the C10. Surprisingly though, the design of the center armrest storage is actually a bit more refined than the one in the C10. It even has a button to release the latch on the lid. The storage space inside is about the same, just over 20 centimeters deep, with an opening roughly 20 by 15 centimeters. There's no interior light though, so good luck finding your stuff in the dark. When it comes to storage space, the glove box is easily the star of the show. Seriously, it's one of the biggest I've ever seen. Just for scale, I tossed in my Samsung S22 and yeah, no contest, I'd say it could easily swallow a 14-inch laptop without breaking a sweat. Overhead, the headliner is made of standard fabric material. But here's a pleasant surprise. Despite being a budget EV, the B10 still gives you a panoramic sunroof and an electric sunshade. That's awesome, especially considering all the rumors lately about the budget Tesla ditching the pano roof entirely and going with a good old metal top. But, and it's a big but, I spent quite a while trying to figure out how to open that sunshade, only to realize there's no physical button for it anywhere. Yep, the only way to open or close it is by using voice control or through the infotainment system. Once again, Leapmotor's engineers strike back in their ongoing cost-down crusade. Of course, the rear-view mirror is just a good old optical one, no fancy digital display here, but thanks to the low-profile center headrest in the back and a generously sized rear window, visibility is actually pretty good. As for the seats, starting from the mid-spec trim, the front row comes with both heating and ventilation, which is a nice touch. But unlike the C10, you can't opt for that impressive silicone-based material. Instead, you get standard synthetic leather, which feels noticeably less soft and has a bit of a plasticky texture. The cushioning underneath is just okay, not too firm, not too plush. And in terms of support, the bolsters on the sides aren't particularly pronounced, so you don't get that snug, wrapped-in feeling. Overall, the seats are pretty average when it comes to comfort and lateral support. As for front headroom, for reference, I'm 1.71 meters tall. With the seat adjusted to its highest position, there's still about 5 centimeters of space above my head. When I lower the seat to its lowest setting, the headroom increases to nearly 20 centimeters. So there's absolutely no need to worry about running out of headspace in this car. The rear doors follow the same design as the front ones. The rear windows don't roll all the way down, just a small portion remains exposed, but it's not really a big deal. As for the rear seats, the seat cushions are on the thinner side and the backrest can't be adjusted. That said, the default recline angle is actually decent, not too upright, so it's still fairly comfortable. For reference, I'm 1.71 meters tall. With the front seat set to my regular driving position, the rear legroom is absolutely massive. I've got more than 20 centimeters of space left. There's also room under the front seat to slide your feet in, which helps you find a more relaxed sitting posture. That said, the seat cushion in the rear isn't as long or as tall as the one in the C10. There's still about a finger's length of my thigh that isn't supported. If you're over 1.8 meters tall, you might find the cushion a bit too short for proper thigh support. The rear floor is totally flat, so if you're stuck in the middle seat, at least you can put your feet wherever you want. There's still about 10 centimeters of headroom left in the rear seats, so headspace isn't really an issue. Now let me talk about my biggest complaint with this car. There are no reading lights in the rear seats. Yep, you heard that right. If you're riding in the back at night, you'd better have your phone ready, because otherwise, good luck finding anything in the dark. Whether you drop something or just want to double check you didn't leave anything behind when getting out, there's zero built-in lighting to help you. This is such a basic yet important feature, and somehow it just fell victim to cost cutting. I honestly don't even know what to say. Thankfully, the rear air vents weren't cut, and this time the angle is actually usable. It won't just blast cold air at the back passenger's face like it does in the C10. Down below, you've got a USB-C and a USB-A port, and just beneath that, there's a small hidden storage compartment. From what I can see, you could easily fit 2 bottles of water in there, so hey, that could be your substitute for the missing rear cup holders. The rear center armrest wasn't cut either, thankfully. Once you fold it down, you'll find 2 cup holders inside, just like you'd expect. There's also this little bowl-shaped icon printed next to them, which kind of hints it might be magnetic, so I gave it a try with a small magnet, but nope, nothing, no magnetic pull whatsoever. The rear seats, yeah, the craftsmanship's a bit rough. Just take a look at the stitching around the center headrest. It's noticeably asymmetrical. Now, to be fair, I didn't discover this myself. I did a little homework before filming this video, and turns out quite a few owners have pointed out this exact issue. So yeah, it's not just a one-off. Let's talk about the ride quality. Those vibration dampening pads stuck onto the body, yeah, they don't really do much. The moment you hit rougher pavement, you'll start hearing this low-frequency hum from the rear, kind of like what we noticed in the Xpeng T6. Now, people vary in sensitivity to sound, but personally I find this kind of low-end drone pretty uncomfortable. So if you're thinking about picking up this car, I'd strongly recommend taking your family out for a test ride to see how it feels for everyone. That being said, let's be realistic. At this price point, expecting top-notch NVH performance is a bit of a stretch. proper noise and vibration control takes serious R&D, budget, and a systematic approach. Even brands like BMW sometimes rely on patchwork solutions like adding resonators to the suspension just to cancel out certain frequencies. So yeah, slapping on a few stickers isn't going to change much. Now let's talk about the driving experience. First off, there's no one pedal driving mode. When you set the regenerative braking to its strongest setting, you'll barely feel any deceleration when you lift off the accelerator at speeds over 60 kilometers per hour. It's only when you drop below 60 that the car starts to noticeably slow down. In other words, the regen isn't linear, and that messes with the overall driving feel. It's unpredictable and just plain awkward. Honestly, I'd recommend turning it off completely. The brake pedal doesn't have that constant vibration like it does in the C10. The tuning feels pretty similar overall. It's a bit soft in the initial travel, but here's something worth pointing out. I tried a few hard braking tests, and honestly, the stopping power didn't feel all that strong. After getting back, I looked it up, and some media tests reported a braking distance of over 38 meters. So yeah, when you're on the highway, make sure you keep a safe distance from the car in front. Now let's talk about acceleration. This car weighs about 1.7 tons and puts out 217 horsepower or just 180 horsepower if you're looking at the base model. In sport mode, the throttle is super sensitive at the beginning and initial acceleration feels snappy. But once you hit around 80 kilometers per hour, there's a noticeable drop-off in power. Acceleration becomes sluggish and the whole experience feels disjointed, even when the car isn't fully loaded. Sure, the power is more than enough for daily city driving, but on the highway or out on rural roads, you'd better plan your overtakes carefully and leave yourself plenty of room. As for the chassis, I didn't get a chance to test it over seriously rough roads, so I can't really comment on how well the suspension soaks up bumps. But when it comes to emergency maneuvers, the suspension actually holds up pretty well. The body doesn't lean too much, and thanks to the car's compact size, it feels fairly nimble overall. That said, when you make rapid steering inputs, the car's response feels just a bit delayed, like the body takes a half second to catch up. Could be something to do with how the ESC is tuned. Alright, let's wrap things up with the battery. The Leapmotor B10 uses LFP batteries and offers two sizes, 56.2 kilowatt hours and 67.1 kilowatt hours, which give you a claimed range of 510 kilometers and 600 kilometers respectively. But keep in mind, it's still running on a 400 volt platform, so the maximum charging power is tops out at 110 kilowatts. According to some owners, charging from 30 to 80% takes about 20 minutes. Not bad, but don't expect lightning fast top-ups. There are 3 trim levels available. The base model, just $13,900 US. But don't get too excited. No power seats, no power tailgate, no panoramic sunroof, no alloy wheels, and no wireless charging. Plus, the power drops to 180 horsepower. So yeah, it's cheap, but I'd rather pay the difference to get all those specs. The mid trim comes in at around $15,300 and the top trim sits at about $16,700. If you want advanced driver assistance, that'll cost you an extra $1,390 for the Smart Drive package. That gets you LiDAR and a few other sensors, but honestly, Leapmotor's ADAS is pretty average. Right now, it only supports highway NOA. So if you're an overseas buyer, I'd say skip the LiDAR and save the cash. That's it for today's review. If you found this helpful, go ahead and hit like, subscribe, and share. Help more people get the real story behind EVs. Catch you in the next one. Peace!